Hey everyone, welcome back into a brand new episode of the Cherry Heat Check. This will be a New Mexico Lobos basketball podcast, and I am Ricky Thompson this February 5th. Lobos going down last night 86-66 to the Utah State Aggies in what we thought would be a close game. Was close through halftime, and things really took a turn in the second half there in the pit. I will break down what I saw on both sides of the ball and what the Lobos have laying ahead here this weekend with Boise State. Also, take a quick look at the standings here to kick it off. But I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, listening the past few episodes, and subscribing. It's been great to get that following here. So let's get into it. Looking at the top of the Mountain West now, Utah State and San Diego State stand alone from New Mexico as New Mexico drops to 9-3 in conference. San Diego State losing to Utah State also over this past weekend. So New Mexico not having a win against either of those top schools. Utah State having wins against both SDSU and UNM. They sit at the top in my mind right now as well, because San Diego State is down Magoon Guath as well as freshman guard LZ Harrington. So San Diego State maybe a little exposed right now when they play some of the top teams. New Mexico now, as I mentioned, must go on to play the Boise State Broncos this weekend on Saturday. Boise State team who defeated UNM in Boise by, I think, around 10 points earlier this year when the Lobos had a very poor showing. But this loss from Utah State last night should not hurt the Lobos too much as far as their at-large bid projections for the NCAA tournament. Since Utah State ranks so high, that was a quad one opportunity and doesn't drop the Lobos down too much. But what it does do is put extra emphasis on this game with Boise. Really a game they can't afford to lose and add to their resume now. If they want to keep that at-large bid hope alive, of course, then they must travel to GCU next Wednesday to play in that raucous environment in Phoenix, as the Lopes have been playing better basketball as well under Coach Drew and their first year in the conference. So a lot of work left to do for New Mexico. Let's get into what happened or what didn't happen for the Lobos last night in the pit versus the Aggies. First half for New Mexico, they were able to keep pace with Utah State, even though Utah State had a little bit of a lead midway through the half. New Mexico putting some things together late, ultimately going down by 3 at halftime. And New Mexico's defensive strategy was really working, I thought, well in that first half, as they forced Utah State to shoot many more threes than they usually do, coming in only shooting 26 threes per game on the season. And in the first half of this game last night, they shot 17 threes, 17 out of 28 of their total field goals in the first half from deep. So in my mind, I'm thinking Coach Olin's game plan is working from a defensive standpoint. If the Lobos can put together solid offense in the second half, or one of their patented runs where they get a couple of turnovers or back-to-back three-pointers, I'm thinking the Lobos are in a fine position, even though they were only down 3 at half. Well, quite the opposite happened to start the second half, as Boyan missing a series of free throws. Turnovers occurred by New Mexico guards, and Utah State began to waltz to the hoop. And in the second half, New Mexico also started to overplay the Utah State guards that were coming off those pin down screens to get the ball. What Utah State began to do is backdoor off of those cuts, and it was open throughout the second half. Obviously, something New Mexico must not have prepared for, something as simple as a backdoor, because it caught them off guard time and time again on the defensive end. And New Mexico's defense over the past 2 games has not looked like what it once was just a few games before that, as Drake Allen began to waltz to the hoop in the second half. Mason Falslev really began to smell blood, and he hit a few shots that really shut the crowd up, including a three-pointer early in the second half, and that defense just became impenetrable by the Lobos. And that matchup zone of Utah State is very tricky because they have multiple guys that come and flash to the middle. So for New Mexico, it may have looked like the middle was open, Hopped or Bullion were coming up to the foul line, but as they got there, they were being met with force or by a denial. And Lobos never looked comfortable, even in the first half when they were keeping pace. We're not able to get the shots that they normally do. And credit that to the defense. Freshman who I warned everyone about, Adlon Elamine, 6'9, 6'10, long guy, ended up with 10 rebounds. But I think his defense against Jake Hall, Tanette, Albury, and the smaller guards of UNM was key. Hall really struggling to get off clean looks. His fadeaway is not something he can do when you have Elamine, who's 6'9", guarding you, amongst others like Drake Allen, Falsalev, who are all Jake Hall's size or larger. So tough sledding for New Mexico on offense, really headed by Drake Allen in that one, I thought, with 3 steals to go along with 4 assists for Allen. Falsalev leading the way on offense, 19 points, 4 rebounds for the Aggies. Again, just impact player when they needed him, making every bounce back play when it felt like the Lobos might have an inkling of something going. He or Carson Templin seemed to always have an answer on the other end. And Carson Templin off the bench in this game, another fantastic game after playing well against San Diego State. He finishing with 12 points, 5 rebounds, and a three-pointer from the corner in the second half that just extended that lead. And Lobos had no answers in that second half for Utah State offense either, as Utah State scored 50 points in the second half. MJ Collins, their leading scorer, 14 in total for him to go along with 3 assists. And there was really just no stopping Utah State's offense in the second half. Looking at what New Mexico did on the offensive side of the ball, which was not much, Bullion finishing with 17 points, 7 rebounds, not getting his double-double, but 9 of those 17 points were at the foul line. He really never able to get any rhythm against that matchup zone because they were not able to run the pick and roll or the pick and slip because there's someone standing in the middle where he likes to go. Most of his catches were on the block where he had to take multiple dribbles, got fouled most of the time by Templin or Clark, going 9 of 14 at the line overall for Bullion. But it seemed like the free throws that he missed were at times in the game where they really needed points. So obviously good look at the statistics with 17 and 7 for Bullion, but I don't think his most effective game, and I think he would agree. Antonio Chol in this game, after I had good things to say about him, against San Jose State, comes out with a straight up clunker in this one of 3 from the field, and one would think, seeing Jake Hall kind of be stymied, that he would step up his game and shoot more shots. That not the case. Only 1 rebound and 1 steal to go along with those 2 points. And I hate to say it, but Chol is really continuing to kind of decline and take a back seat to other players on the team. And I don't really see it from him when I expected him to be one of the better players on the team going into the year. So hopefully he can turn it around, but not playing his best basketball right now. Luke Hopped, solid game, 7 points, 7 rebounds in this one, but 3 turnovers. You could tell that he was sped up at times, kind of taking uncharacteristic paths up the court, or spin dribble moves where he lost the ball or made bad decisions. His defense and hustle always there, but really not as effective as we've seen Luke Hopt on the offensive side, and just have to, again, credit that defense. New Mexico not prepared in any way, shape, or form to attack Utah State offensively in this one. And the old Aggie himself, Dayton Albury, falls to 0-3 in this series between UNM and Utah State, losing 2 with the Aggies last year and then losing this year with the Lobos. Really didn't seem to be playing within himself out there, and I thought he would. Not his best performance, 3 of 10, 9 points, 6 rebounds, but 0 assists when they really needed a playmaker in this game. Every time he got to the hoop, it led to a wild shot or bad pass, it seemed. 3 turnovers on the night for Albury in a game. You know, he's gonna want revenge in as the Lobos go to Logan for the last game of conference play. Lobo bench, fairly quiet outside of Tannett. Tannett finishing with 10 points, 4 of 10 from the field, had some opportunities in the second half with his mid-range jumper, was just hitting the front end of the rim and not getting those to fall. Also 0 of 3 from deep, where he had been effective from 3 the past few games. So Tannett still finishing with 10 and 3 assists, 3 steals, and great hustle. Really don't have any major complaints, but no one else off the bench did anything. JT Rock, 0 points in 10 minutes, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Not a good showing by Rock in his last 2 outings, and DeJavis Miller finishing with 11 points, but most of those were already well within the garbage time there when the game was decided. So Lobos not able to get the shots they want, only shooting 13 three-pointers in this game, making 3 of them, and that is a recipe for disaster, as we know, for this roster. And one of the few times this year where Lobos look just overmatched in my eyes by some of the personnel on the court for Utah State. Elamine, Falslev, Collins, Allen, and Templin are a very formidable lineup against any college basketball team this year. But against a Lobos team that is still missing one of their starters in Chris Howell, Lobos really only having about 6 dependable players right now, in my eyes, needing Howell to come back. And this game just not equipped, in my mind, with the athletes to keep up, even though Coach Olin has been able to maximize the talent of this team, the cohesion and chemistry. And I think they have, room to improve and grow, and expect them to probably be fighting right behind Utah State and San Diego State as we go here. But New Mexico really looking a step behind right now, to Utah State, to my surprise, and disappointing showing last night in the pit. And New Mexico on the glass in this game, not particularly sharp, only having 28 rebounds in total and leaving points on the board when they actually got offensive rebounds or looks in the paint. So just not very efficient rebounding the ball or finishing at the rim, getting opportunities in the paint at times, but Albury again uncharacteristically out of control at this point in the season. Falslev, Allen, Templin, just much better leadership on their end in this game. And I think this is the first time we really didn't see the Lobos fight back after taking that punch in the second half. Even against Nebraska, where they were down double digits, they cut it down to 4 or 5 points in the second half. This just not something we have seen yet, and hopefully they can respond in a major way against Boise, a team that will have confidence against the Lobos. Boise playing better after losing a set of games early in conference play. They defeating Nevada in their last one there. So going to be competitive. Lobos have to find a way to get three-pointers if they're going to stay in the game. Not a good offensive effort when they were in Boise. So this is going to be exciting in a game I think that will be a quad 2 game for the Lobos at home, not one that they can afford to lose if they wanna kinda keep where they're looking in the NCAA, tournament projections here, so that's all I got for today. Appreciate everyone tuning in after a late one last night. I will check in with you after Boise. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will get you on the next Cherry Heat check. Thank you.